Hey Ready Designer 1, and in this video I'm going to share some dashboard design tips with Figma and auto layout. So on the previous dashboard design we're going to look to improve on this by using some color and possibly some icons and maybe even having a dark side menu. And how about having things where we're not going to show the table below, we're just going to have a clean dashboard with some important metrics. And here's a page where we're just going to use the icons, and this is the bookings page with the table view. And if you stick to the end of the video, I'm going to show why having this menu icon could be useful. So the first thing we're going to focus on is making the side menu into a component. But we're going to focus on this nav item because this is going to have different variants. And the reason why it's good to do different variants is because you can show the active state and also you can give the client options. I'm just going to very quickly copy that and go outside. Oop, didn't copy it. Right, just drag it outside. Command and dot, zoom in. I'm just going to call that nav item. And in terms of the icons, we want to get these. So these are the ones that I've actually got from heroicons.com. So I'm just going to copy it by the frame. Okay, so what we're going to do is just make these into a component. Let's think about it. Component set. Or actually, should we just make them their individual ones? So we can rename these. So I'm going to go to rename. I actually want to say icon slash and then whatever name it has. Let me see if that actually works. No, that doesn't work. So rename. So here I just put icon / current name. Great. And then I'm going to make it into multiple components, and I'm just going to then do Shift A, auto layout, just to organize it, and you could say icons. So this is a very small UI or library of your icon set. Very simple. So now in this one, I'm going to do Shift I to insert one of these icons. So I want to bring in the icon home, which is that one there. However, let's say that we're going to turn them dark and we want that to be on the left, and we want to be a bit more generous with the spacing, and I think that is pretty good. And this is vertically in the middle, so you can see the spacing values at top and bottom, right and left. So we have a very simple nav item. And let's just get rid of the border radius, because I just want to see if we can also add a stroke, and that is 4 on the inside, but only on the left, because this is how it looks when something is active. Okay, so now we're going to convert this into a component. So Command Alt K, and now we can't have a boolean on this. However, what we're going to do is have a boolean on the icon home. So the way to do this is we go to layer and we just say icon, and do we want to show it by default? Let's say false. Okay, and then we also have the border on the left, which we can't make that into a boolean, so we're just going to have to get rid of that. And if you know a better way to do this, let me know in the comments. But for now, we are just going to create a variant, and that variant is going to be called active border. And if you have an active border, that is going to be here, and we're going to say 4, and that is going to be on the left. And then we're going to have another version where it's going to be active background. So let's just have a think. So really they're not going to have any colors, so I'm just going to get rid of that fill. And get rid of that fill as well. And also change this into a very light gray of 100. So that is an active background and you can't really see anything, so I'm just going to fill that with white. Okay, so now we have our different active states. Copy that and I want to then paste it, and that could be called brand or logo. And what we're going to do then is we are also going to make that into a component. So Command OK. So you can see that we are starting to combine everything, but we can't really see that well. So I'm just going to change the artboard into a very light gray so you can see this better. So there's the brand, there's the nav item. And then last we have the user. So we can even repeat these and have the icon replaced with this, but I'm just going to make this its own unique component. So I'm going to drag that out. And let me just get rid of that fill whites there. So this one I am going to Command OK. We're going to call that user. Okay, so now we've got 3 components within here, and now we're going to combine this into a side menu. So we just have to think about this. So now we're going to combine it into a side menu. So I'm going to Command E the brand and drag that out. So now I'm going to get the nav item, so Shift and I, so nav item, click on there, and I'm going to duplicate that another 4 times, 2, 3, 4. And then straight away I did it like that, and then I just call that nav. And now this could also be a component. And then the user, Command D, and drag that over. So what I want to do now is actually just make this side menu. Let's combine these two. So Shift A. Let's get rid of the spacing. And again, this is a good thing about Figma. You can look at these in terms of coding. So you've got a div, a brand, a nav, and then this one is the user, and then we combine these. So Shift A, we don't have any spacing there, and this could be called A side, an A side tag. And now just looking at the height, we're looking at 982, so I'm going to say the height is 982, and we want this one to actually fill. So I'm going to say the whole div here is going to fill. That brings it down. So that is looking pretty good. And then we want to give this a fill of a very light gray. There we go. So we have to make some changes on some of these. So we're just going to repeat what we have here. We've got bookings. They're currently all bold, right? Which is fine. But if I wanted to make them regular, I can just go here. You can see they all go regular. However, I think the active one should be bold. So let's just make that one active. Let's say active background. And an active background, let's say that that is going to actually be white. So if I make that white, so there we go. Here I can then say left and right 24. And now you can see we got that nice bit of padding on the left and the right. And now let's try and see if we can actually create these different versions where we have it a dark version, and let's show it without text. When they are actually by default, they should be faded out. So I'm actually going to fade this. And the way I'm doing that is I go down to here and say 50%. So when it's not active, it is a bit more faded. If I go into A side, I just want to Command D, just so we have something that we built from, then Command Alt K, different variants. So I'm going to go variant, and I actually want to make this into an auto layout. So Shift A, let's make it go horizontal just to show the graduation. I want that to be dark. Let's say dark text. So now I can start switching these up. So I'm going to say I want that to be dark. I want all of this to be, I want all of them to be white. Okay, so that's looking good. This one I'm gonna have to change, so I'm just gonna see what happens if I reset, and I actually want that to be just the border. However, if it's just the border, we also want that to be white. So here I can go white, and I can go white again. Nice. Okay, so now I have a dark version. However, we actually want that to go right to the edge. Okay, so let's just have a think. So I'm going to go here, get rid of the spacing. Okay. However, we need these to be a bit more generous with the spacing. So I'm going to say 40, and then go into each of these. So the way to do that is if you go to the parent container and then hit enter, it will select all the children, and then here I can say 40. Nice. And the width of that is 304. So I'm gonna give that a fixed width of 304. We can also say that is a fixed width of 304. Nice. We actually want that to fill container. There we go. That's good. Let's make that fill as well. However, I have forgot to include the icons on these. So icon, and we actually need that to be a white icon. So if I enter again, we can change it to white like that. Now I just have to swap out these icons. So here, let's just have a look. We can go to swap instance, and now we can immediately pick the right one. So bookings. So the final one is we want to do the one without any text. And this is probably the least accessible because it's not clear what some of these icons are. But the benefit is you're going to save space. So I'm going to just Command D that one. I'm going to say dark icons. So I should actually have an option to boolean the text out, if that makes sense. So a quick way to go back to the component is go to main component. If I go here, can I go here, create a property, and you can say text. We want to show the text. Great. So let's see how that works. If I go back to this one, I want to, these nav items are not filling the space. So I hit enter. I'm going to say fill container. Can I do the same for these? Yeah, hit enter, fill container. Hit enter. Okay, that's fine. So now I'm going to hit enter and get rid of the text. Great. But I didn't do it for this one for some reason. So if I go to the active one, and if I do the same, so go to that layer, and it's that one there. We probably can do the same for this one. Go into the text layer and say text. Okay. So we go back, and here we can see that is working now. However, the last one is also to have a boolean for this, the user. So go to main component, we simply just go into the text, we go layer, and we just say text. We can say true by default. We go back here, and if I go down to Diane Russell, I'll just get rid of the text. There we go. So now we actually need to change the logo as well. Now this is a component, so I could actually swap this out since this is a component. So I'm going to create a variant, and let's just move these down. And I'm going to go in, select this, let's zoom right in, and I'm just going to carefully make sure I'm selecting those and delete. Okay, and then I'm going to say hug. Great. So, and that variant, we can just say variant 2. So here, I'm going to say I want variant 2, and I want this to now hug contents. So if I go hug, go. Okay, this one is also to hug. Okay, nice. So that has straight away shrunk the menu. So the next challenge is to create these cards, and of course we're going to use components. So let's show how I actually did this. So if I go and hit the T tool, I'm going to have a number of 2.4. Let's just say pounds or dollars, and we can put M, and the size, let me just double check, is 72, and I'm using a font from Pangram, so PP Fraction Mono, which is free for personal use. So here I'm going to also copy that, so 72. The line height I'm going to say 72 as well. Duplicate that, and we just need the text below, so revenue, and that is going to be 20. So we go down to 20, and the line height also is 20. And then we got these, so let me just go in. This is also an icon from Hero Icons. So I'm going to copy that. I actually want to make that into a component. So I'm going to just say icon / arrow up. Command Alt K, and I'm going to just bring that in here. There we go. So we've got a nice set of icons, and it's following that naming convention. Okay, so I'm going to do Shift and I, and icon / arrow up, and then we're going to just duplicate that, say 10%, and then combine them into auto layout, Shift A, spacing, let's say around 8. Okay, so this is actually going to be next to this. I can actually just rename that to div, and I want to combine those into an auto layout, so Shift A again. Let's align into the bottom with a spacing of 20, and let's combine these into an auto layout, so Shift and A. And now the spacing of that is, let's say, 20. And then what we want to do is make this into a card. So the spacing, the spacing a bit different there, but I'm going to say 24 and 24. So I'm just going to give that a very light gray. I'm going to call that card. I just want to duplicate, Command Alt, let's actually bring some of these. So just to show you a plugin that I'm using for that, command / it's called chart line. Let me just get one in. So here you got all these different settings. I'll just add, and you can see it puts it in. I'll cut that. I want to actually place this in the card. Okay, sounds pretty nice, but I actually want this to be the full height. So the way to do this is to use one of their features, which is an absolute positioning. So if I do that, I'm going to do it from the bottom. You can see it goes behind, which I think is not a bad idea. We can just match that height of 352, or the width, sorry, from the left and from the bottom. So we actually have to have more spacing on the bottom. So let's say 40, let's say 80, there we go. And we can actually have one without color. So this is very simple, where it still works without color, because color is very, very tricky. And this is just a very light color set as well. So just going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to now go Command OK, and I want to then create some variants. I'm then going to go to properties, and I'm going to go to variant. So I'm going to start picking the different colors, and the colors that I'm going to do are, I'm going to go blue, and then just do 50, a very light blue. And then the actual graph, we're just going to go with blue as well. And I'm going to say blue, and it's going to be 500. This again using Tailwind. So this is very, very useful, where you don't have to think too hard about the colors, because the colors have been chosen. And the reason why you go light colors is because you don't want something to have a high contrast. You want to keep the UI nice and light. So now we have our blue variant. I'll just call that blue. And sometimes you want the colors to mean something, but in this case we're just adding a bit of color, and it could be because of the branding. We have some of these colors in the branding, and we're just choosing light colors so it's not too overpowering. Okay, so I can actually decide if I want to show this one. So I can go to layer, and let's just say indicator, and we can say false by default, and we do the same for these. Okay, and for some reason the cards have gone a bit funny. So I'm going to say fixed width, let's just say 400. So I'm just going to 400 for those. And if I do Shift A auto layout, and let's start making all these other vectors 400. Okay, so on to the final part, where we're going to start combining stuff to make an actual screen. So some of these other components are quite straightforward. So I'm just going to copy that, Command V, and same thing for the tabs. Copy that, Command V, drag it out, and we got the table as well. And just to save some time, I've got this table here, which I'm going to copy. So it's a whole div. So I'm going to copy that, Command V, bring it out. Oop, can't bring it out. Let me paste it outside. Okay, so you can see how we're starting to piece these things. And don't worry about things being messy. And here, okay, so now we want to start making these into components. So Command Alt K, Command Alt K. This one I'm just going to label table, and this one I'm just going to say div. And then Command Alt K. Oh, done the wrong one. So how do I undo that? Command Z, Command Alt K. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. So let's see if I can recreate the very let's have a think. We're going to create this one here. So I'm going to do Shift I, and we need the A side. So let's just make this a bit easier on ourselves. I'm going to just get all of those. We can actually put this on its own page called components. I'm going to recreate the ones above, and they might not be exactly identical. It's just for spacing. And then now I'm going to say we want the dark text version. There we go. And Shift I now need the header. Shift I need the tabs. Shift I need the card. So we do that. Great. And we are going to have the different colors. So I'm going to Command D that 2 more times, and then Shift A to the right. We want a spacing of 40. We are going to call that row. Okay, and then I'm going to Command D again because we have 2 rows, and then I'm going to just put that into one auto layer. So Shift A again, and we call that stats. Okay, so we got stats and 2 rows, and then I'm just going to go to blue, and we go to purple with an indicator. So I'm not changing these just to save time. We go red, okay, so we have all our stats, and the way we want the stats to be is 40, 40 and 40. Nice. And then the last one is the table. So I'm going to do Shift I again. We get the table in, and that put it in the wrong place. Just drag it out, and that is the table, and that table is pretty big. So what we're going to do now is actually combine all of these. So I'm going to select all of them, do Shift A, and you could call that main. This is like the main tag. We've got no spacing, and we now want to combine this with the menu. So we are going to select all of it and do Shift A, and now we can say home. Now I don't want any spacing there, and the metric or the size that we're going to use is we're going to say fixed of 1680, and then the height we're going to say, let's just say 1080, and we're going to clip, okay, or let's say 982, sorry. There we go. So that is looking pretty good, but we need to make this more fluid. So we go into the main, we're going to say fill, because we want this A side to be fixed. And if I enter, I want all of those to fill, and that did it pretty well. That did it straight away. So if I hit enter, I want those to fill, and then the only thing not being perfectly lined up are these graphs. So if I enter again and say fill, you can see that these are a bit out of place because we have to make them exactly that width, which is the only painful thing. So just to save time, I'm not going to put this into that exact width of this card. So again, if anyone knows how to make this fluid, please let me know in the comments. Okay, so this whole main, we can give that a background color of white, and there we have it. We have recreated this using components. So now all of these other ones should be quite straightforward. So now I'm just gonna Command D that and bring it over here. So we are actually just gonna delete the table because we actually want this to take up all the space. So I'm going to say field container. I'm going to go into this stats and field container, hit enter. We want that to fill, hit enter again. We want that to fill. Nice. Now the only trouble is these probably need more spacing on the top and the bottom. So let's say if we get rid of that, we're going to say 80 and 80. So that's quite in the center now. Maybe not so much. Let's say 40. Let's actually say 40 and 40. That's better. So there's not a quick way of doing that, but there might be. So if I go here, hit enter. Yes, there is. So if I go 40, tab and 40, that did it for all. So hit enter. You do 40 and 40 again. Nice. So that's pretty cool. Now let's try the gray menu just to see how it looks. So I'm going to say default, but we actually want the icon. Okay. Now we actually want the icon. Yeah, so we're going to go icon, icon, icon and icon, and again just to save time, and I just want to change that to the active border, and now I just want to get rid of some spacing on the left and the right, but hit enter and hit enter again. I want it to be spacing. Ooh. We want that to be 40 and fill. We hit enter. We want that to be 40 and fill as well. Make sure the nav is filling, and then make sure that is filling too, with 40 on the left and the right. Now we're going to create this version where we're going to have lots of space for the table, because sometimes there might be a lot of columns. So it's quite good for the user to actually save space with icons, even though these are not obvious. But if you hover on these, it could show the text item. Let's recreate that one. And I'm going to take the dark one, Command D. Let's bring that all the way here. So I'm going to Command dot. I'm going to delete the stats and tabs. So now I have a nice table. And this menu, I want that to be dark icons. Great. So very quickly, we just created the different page, but this page is the bookings page. And here I'm going to see if I can get rid of the default or make it default, but we don't want it active. So not sure what happened there. It's staying with the active for some reason. Interesting. Go to main component, and there is no border there. Yeah, may have found a glitch or something I've done. So I'll just get rid of that. Here I now want that to be active border, and I want that to be white. Okay. However, what I haven't done is increase the spacing. So the spacing on the menu is quite tight. So I actually want to improve that. And let's go in and let's say 16. So you've got more spacing between the menu items. So just to double check what I use on that, and it's 16. Great. So I'm going to go in, say 16. Saying this one. That is 16. Now you've got some nice spacing, and we can see that here on the final screen. just to show you the benefit of having a menu here. And why would you want this? Now sometimes if the table gets really full, the benefit of this is you can hide this menu. So for example here, we can hide the menu, which gives you a full screen. So if I were to duplicate that, just bring it over, and this could be your mobile screen as well, but the easiest way to show, if I was just to actually hide the A side, you can see it's filling because we're using auto layout. So now you've got a lot of space. And please let me know in the comments what you think about this process, where you first figure out what you need, you create the designs. So once you start creating components, it will be a lot quicker to start creating variants, and I'll see you in the next video.